Welcome to everyone that is joining us today. I'm so excited that you're here, whether you're watching on Facebook or you are watching on Zoom. I am just happy that you're here. So, welcome. Come on in the room. Come on in. Come on in. We have more people coming in on Zoom. Come on in. Come on in the room. I'm so happy that you're coming in. And just take a deep breath and just let it settle in. And for those of you who are watching live, say hello in the comments on Facebook and where you're joining from. On Zoom, just let me know where you're joining from. Where are you joining from? If you're watching the replay, for those who are watching the replay, just click replay and watch the replay. And I'll come back and greet you as well. Yeah, where are you? Michigan. Nice. Willington, Nevada. Yeah, wonderful. And I am in Benicia, California, London. Yes. I don't know, Bliss. I may have told you, may not have told you, but I actually have family that lives in London. We'll talk about that one day. Okay, beautiful. Wonderful. Okay. Well, before we jump into the topic, which I sent you the information, I shared what the topic was going to be today. So before I actually jump in and start talking about the topic, I want to share with you some things that came up over the last 24 hours. And so one of them, there's two things. And one of them is someone asked me recently, how do you get messages from the ancestors and whether those messages are specific to the person that I'm working with, or are they messages that are just part of like a collective? And it was really a great question because what I find is that many people don't quite understand how this comes to be. So I want to just give you a little bit of a background of kind of how I got here. And basically, it started with my elders in my family, listening to their experiences, listening to their stories. I was the kid that wanted to stay in and hear what they had to say and ask them questions about, their parents, what their stories were, and not just the elders in my family, but elders, period. I really enjoyed that. So I think that was sort of the early beginning of me connecting with the ancestors through the elders that were around me. Now, my lineage also holds conjure women, which you'll hear me talk about conjure quite a bit. And in the context of my work, is conjuring the wisdom from the ancestors, is what we're doing. And really allowing that to help us with our own inner guidance. Well, I come from conjure women, intuitives, healers, medicine women, midwives in my family. In fact, I recently wrote a piece on Facebook about one of the midwives in my family, a great great grandmother. So, my maternal grandmother was an herbalist, or what may have been considered hoodoo, practicing herbal root medicine, and she was also known to be a healer. And then on my maternal side, my grandmother was very intuitive. She was one that could see things and understand things far beyond what other people were seeing. And I know that my mother inherited that gift. And I think that is really what helped her in her career as an HR director. And so I come from these women who held these gifts and passed them down to me. And many of them now show up in my dreams, in my meditations, and they guide me and they give me wisdom and they give me information that really has been very, very helpful. I'm going to change that over to speaker view so you can see better. They really help me when I'm working with my clients, and they give me information and guidance. So I'm like an ancestral whisperer in a way. I hear the messages. I'm often been called an ancestral griot. And I've talked about that a little bit and how griots carry the stories. And I've had ancestors say, you're carrying the stories that people need to hear to help them and to guide them into their greatness and help them feel that sovereignty that they really need and want to experience. And so my ancestors speak through me. In addition to that, when I sit with my clients, I'm then able to connect directly with their ancestors and hear the messages, the guidance from their ancestors that may span 15 generations back. Some of them are more current deceased loved ones, but most of them are ancient ancestors who are ascended, who are here to guide and support and are loving and kind. Some of them are still holding the stories that carry some wounds and trauma, and we work with that. But most of them are carrying the stories that will help you really become clear about what is that unique ancestral medicine that's in your blood and bones that you're here to embody, activate, and bring forward to create something that is uniquely yours in the world, something that is soul aligned, something that is fueled by your inner guidance. And that's what I do. I connect with the ancestors and provide you the information, and I channel the messages so that you're getting direct information from your ancestors that has nothing to do with me, just directly from them. Now, I don't leave it just there because, just getting the messages isn't often enough. What I then do is I help you really identify how to weave that information into your life for good, for something that will help you, give you some clarity, take you out of the chaos that some people feel that they're in, but really fuel what you want to create in the world, what you want to do differently. And so these ancestors that come through, as I've mentioned, are always our loving and kind ancestors. So that's a little bit about how the ancestors have started working even more through me over the last 30 years. That, like I said, started when I was a kid, but it wasn't until I was older where I really understood it and embraced it and was able to work with that energy to help more people. So, the second thing I wanted to share before we dive into the topic is that this morning's meditation was so powerful. And I've been hearing these messages from the ancestors for a number of years. In fact, 5 years ago, the ancestresses said, "We're rising." The ancestresses are the women in our lineage. "We're rising, and our voices will be heard through those who are walking the planet right now." And they had messages back when they were alive that they weren't always able to share. Some of them were healers or intuitive psychics, people who were seers, and they weren't able to really fully express that gift. And now they can. Many of them had to provide information to the men in their lives, but they weren't really acknowledged for what they contributed to the success of those men. And they're saying, "We are rising to help now." Not just women, they're rising to help men as well. And what they mentioned to me today is that what we're seeing right now with some of the things that are going on throughout the world is that there is a collective effort to try to hold on to this masculine energy. And this is sort of the last ditch effort to hold on to it and to lead from that only. Now, there's nothing wrong with masculine energy, but it needs to be balanced. So, what the ancestors are saying is right now, more and more ancestresses are rising and providing guidance. And that guidance has a feminine feel to it, it has a feminine energy to it that can balance some of these things out. And what's happening now, as they said, is that this unconscious masculine energy, some of it's unconscious, some of it's conscious, is trying to hold on as long as they possibly can because what has happened is they're That's familiar. That's what they know. That's what they've always experienced, and they're trying to hold on to it still. And as the ancestresses are rising to support us, more and more that energy is being challenged, and there's still that grip that they're trying to hold on to, but they won't be able to hold on much longer. There is a balance that's coming, they said, and we just have to continue to walk in our truth, continue to believe that there is something better, continue to walk with our peace, our faith, continue to believe in the guidance that's coming and really trust it. And the more we do that, the more this feminine energy comes in and begins to balance the things that we see are happening right now. So that was their message this morning. These ancestresses that are coming carry the ancestral medicine as well, and they're able to help you and guide you with this ancestral medicine. And that's something that we do in our programs is really become clear about what that ancestral medicine is. Those were the 2 things that they wanted me to share specifically this morning. So now what we're going to do is we're gonna dive into the Conjure Live for today. And just so you know, I channel also all of the Conjure Live episodes, and they come through some of those morning meditations, the nighttime meditations throughout the day. I'm receiving messages from the ancestors, and those messages are coming from a collective of ancestors, not just mine, but a collective of ancestors that include my ancestors, ancestors in here in history, ancestors that come from other places in the world, ancestors that visit me, of the clients that I've worked with or I'm continuing to work with that have messages that are messages that apply to most people. And so the messages that I share with you are all messages that I've received from the ancestors. Now I write all of them down because what happens is they feed me so much that I oftentimes will forget if I don't write everything down. But in addition to that, if I remembered everything that they share with me, for my clients, for the world, I probably wouldn't remember how to get out of bed in the morning. So I write them all down and then I share them with you. So today's Conjure Live is called Chaos to Clarity when your head is arguing with your heart. When your head is arguing with your heart. And this topic is one that I know was chosen because we keep seeing this pattern everywhere right now. Women keep saying things to me like, I can feel something wants to be born. I hear them say, I'm in between what was and what's next. I feel a little bit off. My head keeps talking to me, but I'm not quite sure if it's my head or my heart. And the other thing that I hear often is I'm oscillating between chaos and clarity, between chaos and clarity. And some of you may call it something different, but that is what's happening for many of the women that I've been talking to. And if that is you, I want you to hear this. You're okay. You're okay. This is a collective time that we're all in where there's so much that's changing and shifting. And that was a part of the message this morning. There's so many things that are changing and that it is really okay for you to be in this space. Now, I know it can create panic because, particularly as second act women and leaders, we're used to knowing where we're going, what's happening. We're used to knowing exactly what the plan is. In fact, planning has probably been one of our real assets. It can be a little scary, but they want you to know that it is okay. You're not behind. You will get the information that you need. It may take a little bit of time, but it's coming. And they really are clear. You don't necessarily need another strategy. What you need is connection. Connection to your ancestors, your guides, and your own inner guidance. And with that deeper connection, that's where things begin to shift and change. And they said, what you need right now is sovereignty. And sovereignty begins with two things: ancestral connection and the guidance that's within yourself. And that's where we're going to work today. But before I start there, I want to ask you a question. I want you to type one in the comments if you've been feeling in between lately. Type a one if you've been feeling in between. And type two if you've been feeling clear and steady and you're not really feeling that in between. Yeah, Pat. Yep. Okay. I'm seeing the ones. I'm finding that that is the general feeling that people are having right now. I have seen it on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I've had people calling me, talking to me. My clients that I work with, I'm hearing the same thing, one and two. Okay, between two timelines, absolutely. Yeah, for most people there is a shift that's happening. And so there is this feeling of I'm not quite sure where I'm going. Well, what we're going to cover today in the live to help with that is we're going to talk about why the head can sound logical while your inner knowing is pointing in a totally different direction. And then how to tell the difference between mental noise and true guidance. And then I'll give you a simple practice that you can use immediately to return to clarity and begin to name what your next step is. And then at the end, I'll talk to you a little bit about how, if you want to do something where it's more private and personalized for you and gives you the direct support that you need right now, I'll tell you a little bit about that too. So let's start with number one part. What's really happening when your head argues with the heart? This is a big one because I hear people say this to me all the time. My head is telling me one thing and my heart is telling me another. And for some people, it looks like one foot is on the dock and one foot is in the boat, and the boat is starting to move and you're feeling divided. And it's interesting because I've had a couple of my clients use that analogy, and I thought it was funny that not just one person, but two or three people, I think it was three people, yes, have used that analogy lately. And what's happening is that the old identity doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't fit for you anymore. The old strategies, they're not quite working anymore. And the old ways of making decisions, they don't work anymore either. But the new thing isn't fully formed yet. So the mind does what the mind tries to do. It does what it's trained to do. It reaches for control and logic and certainty. And none of that is really bad. But here's the problem: the mind is like trying to solve a spiritual threshold like it's a math problem. And that's why you feel this inner conflict that starts to come up. So you want to give it a simple framework. When your head is arguing with your heart, you're usually in one of three situations. Situation one, you have a signal, but the noise is too loud. You're receiving guidance, but it's being drowned out by pressure, expectation, and these mental loops that keep going on in our heads. You might be in situation two. You have a signal, but an old pattern is distorting it. You're receiving guidance, but an old story tries to protect you from the change. Now, that old story might be your lived experience, and it can also be an ancestral story that needs to be healed in order for you to receive the signal in a way that you can hear it. And then there's situation three. You're being asked to slow down long enough to receive the next step. You want the whole plan. I get it. We all do. But the guidance might be coming in step by step. And this is where some people get stuck. The guidance comes in, but the whole picture isn't there. We don't see the full plan. And once again, if you've had any sort of success in your life, you always have a plan. And so we're waiting for that plan, but spiritual guidance doesn't really work like that. It works a little bit different. And that's when we have to step back a little bit and say to ourselves, you know what? What would happen if I go ahead and take that first step? And I'll tell you what usually happens. You take the first step, and the other steps become clearer and clearer. until the whole picture is actually in your view so you know exactly where you're going. Sometimes people will call this confusion when they're really not sure of, what the next step is. It isn't confusion, it's that you're really kind of at a threshold. And your threshold now requires a different level of discernment. It really requires you to stop for a moment, slow down for a minute, and just take a little bit of a pause and give yourself time to catch up to the wisdom that's coming through. And one of the ways to do that is by taking that step. Take that first step. Just take the first step. Take that first step. In fact, I want to ask you this question. If you are at that point where you kind of know what the next step is, I just want you to put next step in the comments. Next step. And the reason why I'm asking you to put next step in the comments is because we're sending a message out collectively to the ancestors that the next step is okay, that you're ready for that next step. Yeah, next step. You want the next step. Next step. Absolutely. We want the next step and we're ready for the next step. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get it. So let's talk a little bit about that mental noise versus true guidance. This is a big one because I hear people say to me all the time, I'm not sure if I'm being guided or if this is just something that's coming through or it's just my mind. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to tell the difference between mental noise and true guidance. And I'm going to give you four contrasts and you can write these down. The first one, mental noise is loud and repetitive. Mental noise is loud and repetitive. Guidance is steady and simple. Guidance is steady and simple. Mental noise repeats itself over and over and over. It rehearses, it spirals, it argues. Guidance, on the other hand, tends to be simple. It might be one sentence. Sometimes it's a feeling of this is the direction, even if you can't explain it yet. And we've all had those hits before. Sometimes we're moving too fast and we miss them. But we've all had those hits before where I don't know why, but this just feels like the right thing to do or the right direction. Or, you may be driving somewhere and suddenly you get this feeling that, you know what, I need to take a different direction home. You felt these hits before. That's guidance. That's the guidance. Mental noise, constantly on repeat. Guidance is just a simple feeling sometimes. Number two, mental noise tries to convince, guidance doesn't argue. Mental noise tries to convince, but your guidance doesn't argue. When we have mental noise, it begins to build a case. It brings receipts. A 5-paragraph explanation. That's the mental noise that's going on. That's often what we'll look at a piece of paper and go, ooh, this is the right direction because it looks good on paper. But the guidance, it won't argue with you. It'll say things like, that's not it, not now, go here, call her, time to rest, apply, release that. And I shared the story about how I was offered a job and the hiring supervisor told me that I could let him know the next day. And when I went to bed that night, in the middle of a night, I was awakened by this soft voice that said, don't take it. Guidance. Mental noise was it would look so good on paper and it was a great opportunity and it was career advancement. That was the difference between the mental noise and the guidance. The guidance didn't argue with me. It just said, don't take it. And unfortunately, I did take it and it ended up being a disaster. But that's how you know the difference between the two. Okay, number three, mental noise creates urgency and guidance creates clarity. Mental noise creates urgency and guidance creates clarity. Mental noise says, hurry up, decide, don't mess up, don't mess this up. And guidance says, here's your next step. May not be the full step, but here's the next step. And oftentimes we'll receive the guidance message, and then the mental noise jumps in and says, yeah, you might not want to do that. That might not be a good next step. Or what happens if it doesn't work out? All of these things that we begin to tell ourselves, that's the mental noise that is often created that prevents us from really, really embodying that guidance that comes. So that was number three. Number four is mental noise leaves you tense, guidance leaves you anchored. Mental noise leaves you tense, and guidance leaves you anchored. Even if the guidance is challenging, it tends to feel grounded and it really helps you to feel like you're in the right place. It's not excitement, it's not a bunch of hype, it's just grounded. You feel grounded. And that's when you know that it's guidance that comes in. It's making you feel like you get excited about it. You feel like it's just right for you. And that's when you know it's grounded. It is clear. It is coming from your guidance and not the mental noise. So let me ask you, which one have you been living in? Loud and repetitive or steady and simple? So if you feel like you've been living in the loud, all of the mental noise and the chaos that's going on, put loud in the comments. If you feel like you've been really following that guidance, put steady in the comments. Now you might feel like you're doing both. You might be both steady. Good. Very good. That's a comfortable place to be in. And it's okay if you are filled with the loud right now. It's okay because now there's awareness and you'll begin to anchor into the steady if you're not quite at that steady point yet. Now let's talk about the ancestral story that is often underneath the fog. And this is where my work is different because sometimes the issue isn't that you're receiving or that you can't receive the guidance. That really isn't the issue. Sometimes the issue is an old pattern is distorting the signal. And often that pattern is coming from your lineage. And I mentioned this before. This is what I call an ancestral story. That story is one that has lived through multiple generations in your family. And that story may be what is causing you not to be able to hear the full guidance. And this isn't about blaming anybody in your family lineage or anything like that. This is really about understanding what those stories are and how they impact your life. And it's simply an inherited pattern that shaped how you learn, how you survive, how you lead, how you make decisions about your life. And in our second act, these patterns can show up like over responsibility, things like if I don't hold it all, everything will just fall apart. Visibility fear, that's another one. Visibility fear. If I'm fully seen, something will be taken away from me. If I'm fully seen, something will be totally taken away from me. A betrayal pattern. Let's say there's been a lot of betrayal in the family And oftentimes you may be thinking things like, if I trust the wrong thing, I'll regret it. Abandonment patterns. This is a big one that I hear a lot. If I choose myself, I'll end up alone. If I go down this path, I hear this a lot from women who are thinking about doing a spiritually based business after leading a life that really didn't have a whole lot of spirituality in it in terms of their careers. They feel like if they step in that direction, that they'll end up alone because the people around them won't support them. The other one is scarcity patterns. If I take a risk, I won't financially recover. So there's a feeling that if I do this, I may not have the resources that I need. And those scarcity patterns can come up from our ancestral experiences, the experiences of our ancestors, where scarcity was something that they lived through. And it didn't necessarily have to be just financial scarcity. It could also be a lack of food, a lack of love, a lack of resources, a lack of land, a lack of places to live. These scarcity patterns can show up in many, many, many ways and impact how we make decisions. And then there's the perfection pattern. If it's not a guarantee, I shouldn't move. And perfection stories keep people blocked oftentimes. They keep people from moving forward. These are the stories that can make things look uncertain for you, but they may not necessarily be uncertain. You're really negotiating what I call like a protection pattern. These are often protections that our ancestors are, the reasons our ancestors are using to protect us. If our ancestors experienced any of these and they had some negative experiences as a result, like being visible, and they were visible in the work that they did and they were shut down, or they were shunned, or maybe they were rejected, or in some cases maybe even killed, then the fear of visibility shows up. And when you start being visible, or when you want to be visible, but there's some fear there for yourself, some of that isn't coming just from your lived experiences. That's coming from ancestral stories. And those ancestors want to protect you from experiencing what they experienced, which is why we want to work with them to heal those patterns so that now instead of protectors, they become supporters, they become guiders, they become a part of your wisdom council. And that's what's important when we're doing the work to heal those patterns. When you're feeling that there's some kind of chaos and you're ready to make a decision, stop asking the question, what should I do? Try something different. Try a deeper question. What story is speaking right now? What is the story that's coming up that's speaking? Because the mind can speak in the voice of protection and call it logic. And the heart can speak in the voice of truth and it be totally ignored. And that's where successful women still get stuck because your success was built in a season of leadership and your sovereignty is being built in a whole nother way. And the new season requires different relationship with guidance. It now requires you to go within and really listen to that guidance that's coming forward. Really, really listen. And that's why it's important that we take a look at those ancestral patterns, those ancestral stories that are coming up, because oftentimes they are the basis of us not being able to fully step into the guidance that we're receiving. But I want to make sure that I also say this. Our ancestors left us those stories, but they also left us stories of courage and resilience, creativity, ingenuity. They left those too. And we really want to be sure that we tap into those because there are far more ancestors that are healthy, heal, and whole than those that need to be healed. I want to make sure I say that. Okay, let's do a quick practice that I'll take you through. And this is one that you can go back and do as much as you want, as often as you want. In this practice, I call it the signal versus the story. And it's about returning to clarity so that you can name your next step. So I wanted you to just close your eyes if you can. If you're in a place where you can close your eyes, close your eyes. If you're not, then come back and do this again and just listen for now. And take a deep breath and just exhale slowly and allow your shoulders to drop. And just now say quietly to yourself, I'm ready to receive clear guidance. And breathe in and breathe out. Now I want you to bring one situation to mind, not your whole life, just one situation, a decision, a transition, a next step, and just bring it into focus for a moment. And now ask this question: what is the guidance within me saying is the next right step? What is the guidance within me saying is the next right step? Don't force it, don't chase it. Just notice what arises. It might be a word, a phrase, a picture, a direction. It might be a sensation that you feel in your body. Just feel into it for a moment. And now we'll ask the next question: what is the story that argues with that guidance? Now notice what arises. You might hear things like, it's too late, you're not ready, you'll disappoint people, you'll have to start over, you can't trust it, what if you fail? Just notice, what is the story that argues with that guidance? And now ask, is this guidance or is this protection? And be honest. Now take a deep breath with it. Is this guidance or is it protection? And now ask, what would I do if I trusted my guidance for the next 7 days? What would I do if I trusted the guidance for the next 7 days? Not forever, not a year, just 7 days. What would I do in the next 7 days? Now, here's the key question: what's one small action that honors the guidance without overwhelming me? What's one small action that honors the guidance without overwhelming me? One action. If you want to write it down, you can, or if you remember it, that's okay. And now I have one more question, and this is important for sovereignty. What support do I need to follow through? What support do I need to follow through? Support might be structure, accountability, a conversation, a boundary, a private session, rest, time. Just name it. What support do I need to follow through? And just take another deep breath And exhale and open your eyes. And if you did the practice, just type done in the comments. For those who are listening live or to the replay, just write done in the comments. And if you want to share, you can actually pop it into the comments. What was one small action? What was one small action that you're going to take? Be quiet. Nice. Being quiet. The one small action. And if you need to go back through this, I'll be sending out the information. It'll be on YouTube, the replay. And if you're in the Facebook group, it'll stay in the group for what, about 30 days. Study French for 15 minutes. Nice. It'll be in the Facebook group for you, and you can go back and listen to it there as well. Go to Old Navy. There's a story behind this. Oh, nice. I look forward to hearing that story. So here's what I want you to take away from this live. Clarity is not a personality trait. Clarity is not luck. Clarity is not reserved for the most disciplined people. Clarity is a relationship. It's a relationship with your inner guidance, your ancestral wisdom, and that part of you that knows what's true for you. And sovereignty is when you can access that clarity again and again and again without needing to collapse, crash, or force yourself into some kind of certainty. So if you've been oscillating between chaos and clarity, here's the reframe. You're being trained in discernment. You're being invited into deeper sovereignty, and you are allowed to receive guidance step by step. You can receive that guidance step by step. Trust it and have faith that it's going to lead you where you want to go. But you may not even know where you want to go at this point, and that's okay. Just follow the step and it'll lead you to the most delicious place for you. Now, if you want this work personalized, I mentioned that I would share that with you. So I'll just let you know that it's here. If you want this work personalized, I want to tell you about the next step. Conjure Wisdom and Guidance is a 90-minute private ancestral story healing and clarity intensive. It's for a woman who is really at that moment right now where you need direction. You are ready to stop circling and trying to figure it all out on your own. You want clarity that's grounded in ancestral wisdom, grounded with spiritual guidance, that clarity that's real and specific to you. So on Conjure Wisdom and Guidance, we do three things. We connect with the wisdom keeper guiding you in this season. So you'll know exactly who the ancestor is that is ready to connect with you and work with you and is ready to give you guidance. And I'll give you some rituals on how to stay connected with that particular ancestor. We identify the ancestral story or pattern that's creating mixed signals for you. What is that pattern that is showing up that is creating mixed signals, maybe holding on to something that's keeping you from being able to hear the real guidance and may even be creating some blocks for you? And then we clarify what your next steps are. So when you leave with direction. You leave with things that you can act on immediately. It's not something where, oh, I get a reading, which it really is not that. You get a reading and then you got to figure out how to bring it all together. That it doesn't happen. You'll know your next steps, what the direction is. And after our session, you'll receive a written integration report so that you are clear about the different things that the ancestors shared with you so that you can move forward. And you'll receive a recording of your session that you can go back and listen to. And what people tell me is they go back and they listen, and every time they pick up on something new and different that helps guide them. If you want to book your Conjure Wisdom session, the link is going to be in the comments. If you're watching the replay, it's available for you as well. So it'll definitely be there. And the information will be there for those of you who are on Zoom. Just give me a moment after we end the Facebook Live. We stay on after for Q&A. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions, and I'll drop the link in the comments at that point. Let me say this clearly. You don't need 100 more ways of thinking. You don't need a ton more strategies and a bunch of coaching and programs and trainings to receive the guidance that you're looking for. If something new is trying to be born, it deserves guidance. It deserves clarity, and it deserves your yes. And once you have that clarity, then you can decide if you need a strategy, if you need a program, if you need business coaching or life coaching or relationship coaching or career coaching. You can decide if those are the things that you need to support you after you have the clarity and the guidance. So often I find that women will come to me and they're involved in or enrolled in a number of programs, but they don't have clarity about the direction that they're going in. And these programs are not benefiting them. Great programs, but they're not really receiving the full benefit of the programs because they're not clear. They don't have that guidance that needs to come through to help them decide how to best use these resources that they've now paid for and enrolled in. Now is the time for you to get the clarity. Now is the time to listen to those ancestresses that are rising to support you. Now is the time. And if you're ready to do this, we've started already today. If you want to take it deeper, then definitely the private session would be good. Before I close, I want to ask you one more question. The area where I'm ready for clear direction is. The area where I'm ready for clear direction is. And just name it: career, business, relationship, visibility, maybe a legacy project, home, finances, boundaries, some type of a calling. Just name it. Just drop it in the comments. The area where I'm ready for clear direction is. When I ask you to put this in the comments, it isn't just so that I can see it. This is a sacred space where the ancestors are also, the energy of the ancestors are collectively gathered. And this helps by putting it in there. Legacy, career. I think someone else put home. Yes. This names it, it calls it out, and it sends that message out to the ancestors. This is what I need. I want to thank you for being here with me today. May your connection deepen. May your discernment sharpen. May your next steps be totally clear. And may you trust that guidance that is within you. Trust that guidance that is within you. And I will see you next time. I'll see you here next week, same time on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch on Facebook. You can go to the replay on YouTube, and you can attend live on Zoom. If you attend live on Zoom, you get to stay after for the Q&A. For those of you who are listening on Facebook or listening to the replay on YouTube, if you want to join us on Zoom live, just put Zoom in the comments and I'll make sure that you get the link for the next Wednesday. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to the ancestors who continue to provide us with insight, guidance, and wisdom.